Bloody Wednesday. You'll pray for Thursday. This DVD cover makes the film look like it's some kind of sexed up torture porno, but it's nothing of the sort. The original VHS cover isn't much better. Whoever this bald Colonel Kurtz looking motherfucker is, he isn't in the movie. In 1 hour and 25 minutes, 35 people will lose their lives in one of America's most incredible tragedies. Well, that's a pretty tantalizing tagline if nothing else. And get this, it's based on a true story. Well, based is a pretty loose term, actually. On July 18th, 1984, which was a Wednesday, a 41-year-old man named James Oliver Huberty walked into a Mcdonald's in San Isidro, a poor neighborhood of San Diego, and proceeded to open fire with an Uzi, a shotgun, and a pistol. Police response was delayed thanks to officers reporting to the wrong McDonald's branch. Huberty shot and killed 17 people inside of the restaurant, and an additional 4 more people were fatally wounded when he sprayed his weapon outside, bringing the total number of dead to 21. 4 of these were McDonald's employees, and another 4 were only children, ranging in age from 11 years old to a mere 8 months. Additionally, 19 more people were injured during Huberty's rampage, which at the time was the deadliest mass shooting by a lone gunman in US history. It was eventually surpassed by the Luby's Massacre in 1991, which killed 23 people, which was later surpassed again by the 2007 Virginia Tech shooting, which killed 32 people, which was then surpassed again in 2016 by the Orlando nightclub attack, which killed 49 people, but this was surpassed only 1 year later by the 2017 Las Vegas massacre, which killed 60 people. Oh, and Huberty's killing spree was also said to have resulted in a copycat crime in 1986, when mailman Patrick Sherrill shut up his workplace, the Edmond Post Office in Oklahoma, killing 14 people and then himself. This incident is where we got the phrase going postal from. Anyway, Bloody Wednesday. As I said, loosely inspired by the events of the McDonald's massacre, the film follows Harry, a mechanic going through an unhappy divorce who slowly begins to lose his grip on reality. It all starts when he takes the engine out of a car, then can't remember how to put it back in again, despite having performed the same procedure to perfection countless times in the past. He's quickly fired and is next seen walking into church butt naked, merrily singing hymns. Harry would be institutionalized, but due to lack of space and funding, he's promptly thrown back out on his arse. Gotta love capitalism. Harry's brother arranges to put him up in an abandoned hotel. How cool would it be to have an entire hotel to yourself? Unfortunately, Harry will never know because he's constantly terrorized by 3 hoodlums led by this David Hess wannabe. My favorite is the guy with the knife. In addition to these bozos, Harry has to contend with hallucinations of the hotel's past staff and guests. Sound familiar? He also has a sex dream about his therapist, tells her about it, and then she starts to flirt with him. Doesn't seem very ethical, but maybe this is just another one of Harry's fantasies. He asks the ghostly hotel clerk how to get rich quick so as to impress the lovely lady doctor. The clerk tells him that one of the guests once committed suicide, but left behind a case full of diamonds. Harry goes searching for them in his room, but gets confronted by this discount Martin Balsam guy and shoots him. But then when he opens the briefcase with the diamonds inside, he finds it's actually full of snakes. This movie's on some shit. Harry starts talking to his creepy ass teddy bear. Then the bear starts talking back.
I don't like this place.
It'll have to do for a while.
Reminds me of that movie The Pit with the tagline, Jamie wouldn't kill anyone, unless Teddy told him to. This also gives me the opportunity to show this clip.
Sorry about that, Miss Oliphant. But like my father says, we all have to go sometime.
Ah, classic. The 3 Stooges show up once again to have a go at Harry, but this time he has a gun hidden in the teddy bear. Oh yeah, Pogger's moment.
You're all going to die.
How does he tie up these 3 large men without them overpowering him? Harry holds court with the teddy bear presiding, playing a game of Russian roulette with the thugs.
Your verdict, Your Honor?
Guilty.
These 2 are literally pissing themselves.
You ruined my best pair of jeans.
But head honcho here doesn't give a fuck if he lives or dies. His name is actually Animal, and he gives us the best scene in the whole movie. Animal finds Harry window shopping for guns and takes him to the local pool hall where he starts to give a rambling, nonsensical speech that I can't even begin to do justice. He starts off by telling Harry why guns aren't any good if he wants to commit a crime and get away with it, and advises him to just use a steel pipe instead. Then instantly forgets about what he just said and tells Harry that he'll get the gun for him. Why? Because he hates people who have more money than him. And then he says this.
Shit, man, I eat steak every night. It cost me $15. My body needs the protein. I'd starve to death at $3.35 an hour.
You really just gotta see this whole speech for yourself. It's equal parts awkward, over the top, and hilarious. Random fact, the guy who plays Animal, Jeff O'Hako, was one of the Libyan terrorists in Back to the Future and has often worked as Sylvester Stallone's stunt double. Speaking of acting, I should probably comment on our leading man, Raymond Elmendorf. This guy's not the most gifted of actors, but he really tries to make the best of what he's given, and overall, I think it's a decent performance. He's sympathetic enough to make you feel for Harry's struggle, but also has a genuine danger about him that makes him scary. He also talks a bit like Jeffrey Combs. That's always awesome.
What about 1327? She ordered coffee.
As the film goes along, poor Harry slips further and further into madness, eventually experiencing a vivid hallucination that he's killed his absolute bitch of an ex-wife.
Why don't you shave? I don't want to feel your beard in bed.
You never could take care of yourself.
You want to go back to the nut house?
You can't take me back.
Oh, no?
Forget it.
Harry!
There's a good moment here when Harry's brother comes over and Harry's trying to keep him out of the bathroom so he doesn't find the body. But then when the brother eventually does go in, it turns out there's no body at all. This finally pushes Harry over the edge, and when Animal pops by to drop off the Uzi Harry was looking at in the window, the stage is set for him to go sicko mode in the worst possible way. Director Mark G. Gilhuiz does a good job of ramping up the tension, cross-cutting between Harry loading up on ammo, his brother desperately trying to locate him, and his doctor unsuccessfully trying to warn the police that something really bad is about to happen.
Fill out this form and make sure you sign the complaint.
This is the movie's attempt at hard-hitting social commentary, basically making all of society complicit in its inaction to stop whatever Harry's planning. It's all our fault. While this does come off as quite ham-fisted, I at least appreciate the filmmakers for trying to include a message in an otherwise schlocky exploitation flick. The climax of the film finally ties the rest of the story to the Mcdonald's massacre, as Harry walks into a coffee shop and starts shooting. Until now, the cafe he targets hasn't been seen or mentioned at all in the film, so he really doesn't have any connection to it, but then again I suppose that reflects the cruelly random nature of these kinds of attacks. I have to say, after the rest of the movie being so kooky, cheesy and over the top, the final Rampage is genuinely quite harrowing. It's fairly well shot, with atmospheric Dario Argento lighting thrown in for good measure, and any background music cuts out completely for the entire duration of the scene. The shooting lasts uninterrupted for a solid 5 minutes. 5 whole minutes of non-stop gunfire and bloodshed. It's relentless and hard-hitting, and images of innocent people being savagely mowed down as they go about their day never stops being upsetting. At this point, any sympathy you may have had for Harry before goes completely out the window. And I suppose no review of Bloody Wednesday would be complete without a quick rundown of some key points where the movie differs from the actual event that inspired it. Perhaps the biggest being that Huberty's siege of McDonald's lasted for an entire 77 minutes, whereas Harry's only takes up the last 5 minutes of the movie. In real life, the bloodbath only came to an end when Huberty was fatally shot through the chest by a police sniper and died instantly. In the movie, Harry is taken down by a wounded customer carrying a concealed handgun who shoots Harry in the heart. The camera slowly zooms in on Harry as he dies on the coffee shop floor, followed by a hard cut to credits where they misspelled the word sergeant. Amazing. Bizarrely enough, this film was written by Philip Jordan, once an acclaimed screenwriter in Hollywood who won an Oscar for writing the 1954 film Broken Lance. How he came to be involved in such a low-budget affair, I have no idea, but it's no secret that by this point in his life, Jordan's career had somewhat declined, and his work mostly consisted of B-horror movies like Night Train to Terror and The Unholy. He may have been drawn to the opportunity to explore the psychology and motives of someone who commits an appalling act like mass murder, but doing so only 4 years after the real-life tragedy of San Isidro definitely lends the project an air of being exploitative and just sleazy. Director Mark G. Gil-Hewis never worked on anything before or since, but due to the controversial nature of Bloody Wednesday's subject matter, I wouldn't be surprised to learn that this was someone else working under a pseudonym. Bloody Wednesday is a bizarre but fascinating film. It's a cheap exploitation picture possibly made to cash in on a real-life tragedy, yet everyone involved seems to have put in an earnest effort. The performances veer between genuine to over-the-top to outright terrible.
This man is dangerous. I know. I'm a doctor.
For most of the runtime, the movie is amusing, filled with weird yet wonderful scenes that have no right being as freakishly entertaining as they are. Then, right at the last moment, the tone shifts gears completely and traumatizes us with a vicious and unflinching representation of a terrible and shocking real-world event. It's a difficult movie to categorize, but to be honest, I kinda love it, warts and all. Bloody Wednesday is a film that I can only describe as a roller coaster ride, one in terms of tone, emotion, and genre. And it's one that I'd highly recommend to fans of goofy cinematic oddities, with the warning that some viewers may be put off by its somewhat exploitative nature. That finally concludes my thoughts on the matter. Thank you as always for watching, if indeed you still are. Stay safe, don't get shot, and I'll see you soon.
Le temps de ce film, 35 personnes vont périr dans des conditions particulièrement horribles et au terme de souffrances terribles. Ce film angoissant dépeint l'une des tragédies les plus dramatiques survenues aux États-Unis ces dernières années. Un film dont la folie et l'horreur dépassent tout ce que vous pouvez imaginer.